this new Jermaine Cole thing. Um, I'm specifically interested in it because supposedly he addresses his role in the beef stuff, and he famously bowed out of it after almost starting it, which was a very interesting move. And since none of these people involved seem to want to do an interview about any of it, um, I guess you got to pick apart the songs to get an idea of how people think and feel about things. It's called Port Antonio, and I'm gonna play it with the lyrics going because he just put it out with this just a still frame the whole time, of just like people in the dark, like we kind of are. He had something going talking about how he was envying the drug flippers. I kind of like that peek into his psychology because I think that even helps paint the pictures of maybe how he feels today. Because even though he's big on the mainstream level, he's probably not looked at as successful as some of his peers. I don't know. So that was interesting. But then it got to how his rhymes blew, and I feel like we're off track now. Mono a mono, I'm Bono, I'm you times two. Interesting. So I'm gonna get into analyzing this. So I had this talk with my therapist yesterday about all of this rap talking I've been doing and why it sometimes feels weird for me to do because I'm also a rapper. And there's this thing in my head where like, if I'm a pundit, like, can I also be an artist? And that seems like a question I'm going to have to chew on going forward and talking about a lot of this stuff. But I'm trying to acknowledge the parts of myself that I deny when I have these sorts of conversations. So, and that means I have to talk a little bit about how I feel about some of these bars as a rap writer. Yeah, I did like the U2 double entendre, but it's just one of those things, especially within the context of that verse, it calls into question who he's talking about when he says mono a mono, I'm you times two, and in Bono. Yeah, I get the U2 reference, but it's just like, oh, is this a clever rhyme or is this going at somebody, since this whole thing is in the context of a battle? Now, skeletons locked, never would swap, melanin mocked, devilish ops. I like it, except I don't like never would swap because that's not a thing people would actually say. Never would swap. That's just not how people talk. Sounds nice though. Melanin mocked. I am curious. Like, that's the story I want to hear. I want to hear about when he had his melanin mocked. Like, I would like that unpacked. I want to hear his melanin mocked stories. See, lifelong friends turn to devilish ops. Now that's, again, interesting in the context because he was friends with Drake. I don't know about lifelong friends. So again, we don't even know if that's who he's talking about. I was Mike in red leather trying to tell him to stop. Oh, you better beat it for you seen the heavy metal get popped. Oh, that's interesting. But I like the Michael Jackson thing there. It was Mike in red leather trying to tell. I think it's probably to stop, not him to stop. Sometimes these lyric things get things incorrectly, because Mike in red leather trying to tell them to stop would be like Mike in the Beat It video trying to stop the gangs from fighting. Like maybe he was trying to stop Drake and Kendrick from fighting, but it did not work. You better beat it, Michael Jackson, before you seen the heavy metal get popped. I guess that's just back to the rhyme scheme. Mean ass wing with the hell of a shot. I don't know what that means. And then Draft King bet. Okay, that works too. He won a ball till he followed the Federals knock. Is this he a person? Is this him? Who knows? So this is interesting too, right? This is a very vulnerable point of view. Then he's talking about somebody who was in the hood, whose father wasn't around, and mom's remarried. Got some money to get out of the hood, moved to a soft part of town, and then when you're back in the hood, you feel awkward, and it fucks with your confidence. That's interesting. Like, that's the sort of like very specific sociological shit that you don't hear about in a lot of mainstream rap music. That I like. I appreciate the honesty and vulnerability for that, especially if he's actually talking about himself, but I don't know if he actually is. I don't know. I wouldn't, Urkel Moldy, I would have agreed that it wasn't about the battle, except for the part about where he's Michael Jackson trying to get the gangs to stop fighting. That, to me, feels very specific to the situation. But again, we're all just speculating. Is anybody trying to stop him? I'm curious. And that's the thing. Bloated Microbe, like that, that's where it gets tricky. Bloated Microbe said it might be a throwaway bar for the scheme. Right. Because that's when you're writing shit that's so meaningful and then you get to a bar that seems like a placeholder, that's where it gets confusing because if everything else has meaning, you want to ascribe meaning to that part too, but we don't know if that shit is important. And I think that's the same roadblocks I run into in Kendrick bars sometimes. Is like sometimes me as a writer, I feel like some shit was just to keep the scheme going, but it's not really about anything. But in the context of a song that is about things, that can get really fucking tricky. He said, "Be smirched." He sound like William Regal out here, hating both your eyes, but the third's blind. So, okay, let me tell y'all something too. As a rap writer, something that I'm very aware of, something he gets on my nerves with a lot, and it sort of leads to, I think it ends up being a big separator from who I think is like a really interesting writer or not, because it can sound really fucking good to write a rhyme scheme all the way through a verse. It can sound really good, but it does lock you in a way that's gonna lead you to saying some shit that like is either unimportant or doesn't make sense. Like invariably, if you write a rhyme scheme longer than 6 bars, you're gonna end up saying something unnecessary, nonsensical, or completely aside from whatever point you're trying to make because you're trying to fit the scheme. Like it's beyond difficult, damn near impossible to make a cogent point if you're locked into the same scheme for longer than I would say like 6 bars. It starts to get limiting. It's like I think it's a law of diminishing returns type thing. After 6 bars, it's almost unavoidable to have a little bit of fluff in there, and to me, like that, it reduces the quality of the entire thing. And I think at Hypno Bears, the crutch I used to use in writing myself. Yeah, like I've definitely been there. Like I fucking on my first album, almost every song, I do like 4 bars of like 8-syllable rhymes. Just because that was what was interesting to me at the time. But when I go back and listen to it, all I can hear is me trying to do that. Like, and within that, I was trying to, like, I was writing songs about things. So I was trying to, within that scheming, I was trying to make points. But in a way, it makes it harder to make your points. It's harder to paint your pictures. If you have to lock in to schemes to that degree, like there's so many things that could be useful in painting your picture that you can't say, and so many things that you're gonna have to bend and like contort language together to make it work to try to make your point if you're like super leaning on a scheme. When's the last time somebody sang a Stop the Violence tune? I feel like we need more of those, and we haven't had any since like 1989. So who's the they? And because this is the part where he's talking about the battle more specifically, right? I pulled the plug because I seen where it was about to go. They wanted blood. They wanted clicks to make their pockets grow. Is this the rappers? Is this Kendrick and Drake? Did Kendrick and Drake want blood and clicks? Did we want blood and clicks as an audience? I mean, as I have stated before, and I have contributed to, there's a growing YouTube cottage industry around this battle and analyses, but is... So you pulled the plug to not feed that? Interesting, but then does this song not also feed that? I don't know. Again, I feel like these people need to have conversations. Okay, now, if that means I got to dig up dirt and pay the whole team of algorithm bot niggas just to sway the whole thing, like that's interesting. Both Drake and Kendrick have been accused of using bots. Which is the dirtiest, weirdest shit. Like, I hope, and it's like, of course that's where we are, but I just hope that's not where things go. We're like, okay, it's already a battle in music, and it's already a battle that involves public opinion about the music. But to add this third thing of like dueling robots and the part that plays into swaying public opinion, like that's just fucking exhausting. I hope that that is not where things go um in terms of rap battles and shit like that. It just seems unnecessary. It's funny. I was seeing, like, when the Joker 2 came out, I was seeing like a bunch of Twitter accounts basically saying like the same positive things about the Joker movie. And I'm like, fuck. This is like this is Warner Brothers like hiring the bot army? And it's like, I don't know, to some degree I get it a little bit more when it's corporations. I honestly and obviously I just don't like that in general. I feel like as a population we're very easily swayed to begin with. And that's just so dirty to me, to try to fight to fight info warfare in that way and fucking manipulate people. Basically, I don't like that shit. It's just whack. Incredibly, he said, is a funny thing to me in raps because it's like so normalized to just grunt in the middle of a verse. I'm sure I've done it too, but it's one of those things that tickles me because it's like a weird little rap tick. I feel like it started like in the 2000s where people would just start putting a little grunt in the middle of a verse, like for emphasis. And it's actually pretty useful too, but I always find it funny. My dog texted me, I'll share the words he said to me. If you refuse to shoot the gun, don't mean the gun ain't deadly. I guess in that metaphor, hypothetically, the gun is me. I like that. I like that plain explanation. The gun is me. Oh, he's straight up talking to Drake. That's good. That's vulnerable. You know, I'm pro vulnerability in this shit. So I'm always cheering that on. He's like trying to motivate his friend Drake. Ain't nobody trying to stop you, Jermaine. Interesting addition to the conversation of the battle from J. Cole. I guess kind of explaining why he stepped away. Kind of not. I don't know. I could use an interview. Again, I could just use an interview. I would love to. One of these gentlemen could commit to speaking on a microphone and explaining something. But instead, we pick things apart and yeah, contribute to the cottage industry. Like and subscribe, homie, friend. It's free. Stop playing.